Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to G.A.M.E, the show that covers games, arts, movies, entertainment, and everything else. I'm your host, GQ. We have a great topic today, but before we get into that, make sure you email us, gameshowchat@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @gameshowchat, and check out our Instagram, gameshowpics. So make sure you do all of that, but our topic today, we're going to be talking about independent game developers, also known as Indy Devs. So we're going to welcome Waffles to the panel, and my main man, the great Daitakuji. So gentlemen, game on. Let's get into it, because Indy Devs, we're just going to call them Indy Devs just to make life easier. Right. I'm not going to keep saying independent game developers, because that's just way too much. But they've been around for a while. I mean, the original Atari, the original PCs, all of them were independent. I mean, there was no companies, until Atari came around and until, some of the other early game companies came around. So everybody technically was an indie dev back then. But we're all console gamers for the most part. I understand, yes, there's a lot of you PC gamers out there. Sorry, we're gonna have to make you a little bit upset on this one. We're gonna really focus more on the console stuff, because that's kind of where people are at right now. I mean, yes, there's a lot of PC gamers, and yes, there's a lot of indie devs for PC games because it's computers versus like major consoles. But we're gonna look at it more from the aspect of the indie devs that do console stuff and maybe even some of the mobile app stuff. So before we get into that, real quick, I also want to give a shout out to Aaron, who is over at Love 3 Entertainment. He also works with Lucky Shot Media. He's the gentleman that does our graphics for our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook. But he also has a game that we're going to be talking about called Spaghetti and Meatballs. So we'll get into that in a little while. Gentlemen, game on.
Well, right now, independent game developers and indie game, I think they are what's keeping people interested in video games. Like people like me, that is, because the big box, like EA, Activision, all those guys, they constantly rehash the same thing. And for me, that can get a little bit boring. Every once in a while, they come out with a great one. EA does have the Mass Effect series. Everybody tells me they're great. I own them. One day I'll play them. But then, year after year, you have the Call of Duties, you have your all your first-person shooters that everybody loves. So it's a fresh breath air for me to see like an independent game developer come out with something that, like, even though they are bringing back stuff from the past, or just putting their own little spin on things, I think it's a breath of fresh air. Like Guacamelee is one of I played through recently, which is a Metroidvania type game, which it takes Metroid style game and Castlevania and put them together, but you're a luchador going through places in Mexico to get back his love. And the game was just phenomenal. Came out I didn't even hear anything about it until I was venturing through the PSN network. Like, what is this? So I go on YouTube. Wow, this looks interesting. So I got it. I played the living heck out of that game. The first game I got a platinum in ever on PlayStation Network. I thought it was phenomenal.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up, because I was about to ask you what exactly is a fresher breath air. But we'll move over to Waffles and.
I had to go with it's kind of a Metroidvania game too. Those are like really popular. The Metroidvania type games are Dust and Elysium for Xbox.
Oh
Xbox
yeah, that was another one I need to finish.
Throughout most of the game, one guy developed the whole game, and I was following him on Twitter for a while, watching this progress and making the game. The animation is just beautiful in that game. And I was sad when I beat the game, because it's just like I didn't want it to end. It's just
that's probably why I didn't beat it yet, so I can hold on to it a little bit longer. Because I'm sorry that I didn't put that on my list.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great game.
And the controls are real tight on it too. And that's the thing. Like, it seems like, because there's a lot of Japanese developers are like leaving Capcom, like Keiji Ifumine, like he's making Mighty No. 9 now, which is like a Mega Man type game. And a lot of these old school developers are leaving their companies because, in Japan they're making a lot of mobile app games. I guess that's the big thing over there. But it seems like we upset the older Mega Man games, the platformer games, over here now more than they kind of do in Japan. So
now, do you think part of that is because you're starting to get a lot more of that casual audience coming in? Like, for us, that's the stuff that we grew up with, the Mega Mans, the Castlevania, it was the Nintendo stuff. And, for us now, as, advanced gamers, I guess you could say, that stuff is basic and simple. It's still fun. We still enjoy it. But I think when you have this huge casual audience coming in, I think those simpler games is kind of more appealing to them.
Yeah, Call of Duty I wouldn't put that all on Call of Duty, but that kind of ruined, like, a lot of other, big game market, like Capcom, like how they would take a chance. They won't take that chance now because when Call of Duty comes out, everybody just gets that, like they don't want to, they don't see the numbers and, making a different type of IP versus, just coming out with another Street Fighter or Resident Evils,
They're afraid that they're going to lose
the evil within,
yeah.
That's coming out sometime, I think this summer.
Yeah, that looks...
That's not an indie game, but I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Well, I think the reason for that, I mean, of course, like you said, is those are their games that they bank on. I mean, unfortunately, yes, we love it. The video game industry is great, but it's still a business at its core. No matter what, they still got to make money. Even I think, just getting off of it just a little bit, the new Metal Gear, they brought out a demo that essentially is, kind of an opportunity for them to fund the next game that's coming, because they got so much riding on that next game. It's like, we don't have a game coming out this year. We gotta do something.
Konami's they're like here right now.
Yeah.
In terms of their company.
Well, going back to games that are developed by like small, teams, or just maybe even like you said, one guy. What about Braid and Skullgirls?
Now, Braid, that's a good one. They got another game coming out called Transistor.
Okay.
I think that's coming out on PS4 and PC later, but I think that comes out in sometime 2014 this year. There's a lot of indie games coming out this year, but it takes place in like this kind of like a Blade Runner type setting. It's an action RPG. But if you like not Braid, but Bastion, you'll like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that what the thing is going on now is that Microsoft and Sony are making it easier for independent game developers to get their games out there, and especially get them to a crowd like the console gamers, because PC gamer, they make the game, they put it out there, But for console gamers, you don't really get a lot of independent games just because there's not really that option. I mean, Xbox Live had their independent section where the games were $1, and some of them were really great. Like, there's this one game called I Made a Game with Zombies in it, and all it is that you going around shooting up zombies, and the guy that's singing it is I made a game with zombies. That was a phenomenal game. And I picked up a game that's a shinobi type game called Akane to Kunoichi. It looks like something that could be on the Super Nintendo, but it's fun nonetheless. I mean, the big name companies are trying to make a wave for it because they do realize that people like these games, not a lot of money going into them, but people love them. So,
well, I think it's a good way for the developers that are out there that are talented, because there's a lot of talented developers, independent developers. They're thinking outside the box. They're able to come up with these other ideas that a lot of the big companies, it's like, look, they have to bank on their Call of Duties. They have to bank on their Battlefield and those, money-making games, because, just like sports games, every year, you're going to get another Madden. Doesn't matter if they changed, the referee's shirt or if they added a couple more plays. You're going to get another Madden every single year. So how about, and actually I think with the Microsoft, I think they started their indie games section in like 2008 or something like that. But they were one of the ones at first, and same thing with Sony, it was harder to get into it because you had to put up a lot of cash up front if you wanted to get one of those development kit licenses. It was like, either $2,000 to about $10,000. So I don't know about you guys. I don't have 10 grand laying around.
That's still kind of deep. And if you're charging only $1 for your game, you hope 2,000 people or 10,000 people download your game.
Well, don't forget, they're still going to take a cut out of that money too, though.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but how about the elephant in the room, the one that had people on eBay buying phones that had this game, and it was the simplest game ever, Flappy Bird.
Oh boy, don't.
Now that's an Indy Dev game. I mean, there's one guy. One
guy did it, and he puts out a game for whatever reason was super popular, and he was reportedly making $50,000 a day on advertisement.
$50,000 a day?
I think it was a day.
If it's $50,000 a day, that man was making
a lot of money.
So he was making $18.5 million a year, or should have been.
He's making a lot of money on advertisement,
and it was too much for him.
So I downloaded the game before everybody got rid of it. And my gosh, it's not a game. Oh, come on.
But here's what I think he did, and the dude was smart, and I'm going to give him all his props for this. He made a big scare that they're going to pull it down. So, I can't handle the pressure. It's like, dude, if you're giving me money, that's not too much pressure. I'll take the pressure off of you. But I think what he was doing was just kind of making a scare. It's going to go away. Then all of a sudden, millions and millions of people downloaded to get it. Now it's like, instead of making $50,000 a day, he's probably making like $1.5 million a day, probably by now. Something insane. But before we run out of time, I want to definitely get to Aaron's game. Aaron is a friend of the show. And he, like I said, did the artwork for us, works with Love 3 Entertainment, that's his company, and also works in association with Lucky Shot Media. He developed a competitive puzzle game called Spaghetti and Meatballs. And I guess in this game, you're a meatball. All of his games seem to be meatball related, which Aaron, I don't know what's going on with that. But
Likes that food.
He likes his food, his Italian food. But every game is, in this particular game, you're a meatball, and you have to maneuver these spaghetti tiles that you have to try to essentially attack and to take out the other meatballs. Now this, from what I understand, is a mobile app game, but it seems like that's another way for independent game developers to get in and, like you said, make some money. I mean, of course, if, you start getting that Flappy Bird money, you're not an indie dev anymore. Now you're a full-fledged developer because you got the money to do it. So with games like that, I mean, how about Mark of the Ninja? That was one of the ones that was, I think, on Xbox Live.
Yeah, that game was
That was one of the first games I played where I actually felt like I was a ninja, because you weren't balls to the wall, going around killing everybody. You can do that in a game, or you can stealth the whole game through and not kill anybody. But the game, or you can have an option where you can have the settings where it's really dark. Okay. And that makes it more challenging. Like you can set the game on the dark. And oh boy, that game was just, I don't know if you finished it yet, but it's pretty good.
How about on one last one, because we're running out of time, that one that you were telling me about, Hotline Miami. What's on that?
Hotline Miami, boy, that's a game that is, okay, people think that Grand Theft Auto is a murder simulator. No, Grand Theft Auto is not a murder simulator, it's a crime simulator. Freaking Hotline Miami is a murder simulator because that's all you do. You're just going through things, killing people, and that's it.
Okay.
That's a top-down game.
Top-down game, kill everybody in a room, next level.
Well, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. People might be wondering why we have the Ninja Gaiden crew here, because we want to know what Itakagi's up to, because we haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, man.
But the funny thing is, the crew is trying to tell me to talk about Mighty 9, but you guys have already talked about Mighty 9.
Yeah,
so
Mighty 9.
I don't know why they're,
It's a Mega Man game.
It's gonna be epic. I hope
it's
really
great.
want that game. So. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you. It's been a definite pleasure. We are running out of time, unfortunately, but you at home, but make sure you email us, gameshowchat@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, send us your tweets, let us know what you would like us to talk about at Game Show Chat. Check out our Instagram, Game Show Pics. Gentlemen, game over.
I will pay you a bonus for the first new material you sell me.
Ah, he'll buy them at a high price.
Well, yes. Yes, I will.